You're looking at the Case Family Vintage Olive Tree. As you can see, it is very well established, and I estimate it to be about 55 years old. When we sold the home last year, I trimmed a branch off of this tree, and it's this branch that will be the subject of the video you are about to watch. I'm holding in my hand a branch that I cut from an olive tree at 6680 Silverthorne Circle in Sacramento. This tree has been in my family's ownership since 1968, so it's been over 52 years. And we sold the house last year, and as a memento, I thought I'd cut this branch out and make a few things out of the branch that would provide some memories of the house that we had. So what I'm going to do is I have this one section here that I cut from a chainsaw. It has a chainsaw surface now, and I'm going to now put it in this clamp here, and I'm going to plane this down to make a smooth finish out of it. But before I do that, I'm going to put my safety glasses on, and I'm going to clamp it down to this table right here. And I'll start out by taking off about a 64th of an inch using this hand planer. From that operation, you can see we have a very smooth surface from which we can go to the bandsaw and resaw approximately a 1/2 inch piece in order to make the first item that we're going to make. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make about a 1/2 inch resaw of this piece of olive to bring it down so I can have a piece that I can work with. And so what I'm going to do is use the bandsaw to make that cut. But before I do that, I'm going to put my safety glasses on. Cut this off. So here's the piece we have to work with. The first pattern I've decided to make with this piece of rare Case Family olive wood is a peace symbol, which I think exemplifies the era and the time in which we acquired the house, because it was certainly the mid-60s, and I think this would be a kind of a good tribute to the first thing that we make with the olive wood. So what I've done is I've created this pattern on paper, and then I've traced out approximately where I want to put this pattern on the wood to maximize the grain pattern, the attractiveness of the grain, as well as avoiding any of these cracks here that might give me a problem when I'm making the piece of wood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue on this pattern, and then just glue it right back down to the piece of olive wood in the location where I've sketched out. Okay, now that that's on there, we're going to go to the bandsaw, cut this out, and then we're going to make the final product on the scroll saw. And now that we're back at the bandsaw, we can cut the rough exterior of the shape, and then we can go over to the scroll saw to finalize it out. This bandsaw blade is a little wide, and it's a little better for resawing like the first cut we did than it is to doing these radiuses. So I had to take some very rough radiuses, but I can finish all this off on the scroll saw. Now that I'm at the drill press, I can drill the holes that I'll use to access the scroll saw blade. one of the things I'm doing here also is making the holes in exactly the spot where I want the curve to be on the wood. That way I won't have to make that curve with the scroll saw blade. It'll already be done with the drill bit. Now that I have the holes drilled for the access for the scroll saw blade, these holes will also be doubling as radiuses, so I don't have to make them on the scroll saw blade. I use the access holes in the piece that I drilled to access the blade for the scroll saw. Put the scroll saw through the blade, reattach it, and tension the blade until it has a nice ring to it. Turn the saw on. There we have another piece removed from the peace sign. The next step is peel off the paper and see what we have underneath. Hopefully the glue didn't stick on too much. And we can look, you can see a pretty beautiful grain pattern that we have here. And a little bit of touch up with some sandpaper, and I think we're going to finish it with some olive oil. That'll be our final finish.
Well, here's the final product. After a little bit of sanding and a little touching up, I was able to get it nice and smooth, and we used olive oil as the final finish on this peace symbol, and you can see that the olive oil has really brought out the grain and the very beautiful luster of this wood. It almost looks a little like stone to me. And this wood is very interesting because it's kind of rare, because most olive trees are used for producing olives and olive oil, which is far more economical than producing olive wood, because when you produce the wood, you kill the tree. But so generally speaking, the only time olive wood is available is when people trim it, or maybe if they have a bad tree or something that's not producing fruit. And it's fairly easy wood to work with. And it's kind of hard though, but it's, I looked it up on the Janka wood hardness scale. It's 2700, which puts it just a little bit between mahogany and cocobolo. So it was a very interesting and fun wood to work with. And I'm really hoping that the person I give this to, which is my sister, will enjoy it, because she lived at the house where this tree was, and it will provide a lot of memories, because even though the house has been sold, the portion of the tree that was there as a living monument to the house will stay with her forever. And it's going to be her birthday, and I'm going to give this to her as a birthday present, and I wish my sister a very happy birthday.